Maintenant, la séance. I call this meeting to order. As mentioned previously, welcome to meeting number 38 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. We have two panels this afternoon. They will be shortened panels, and I think our last one will be interrupted because we do have votes, but I will get right into it. La réunion d'aujourd'hui se déroule.
Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format.
Benefits of the witnesses and members. As always, kindly wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those on Zoom, click on the microphone icon. And actually, I'm going to skip that. It's really in our second panel that we have someone coming in on Zoom, so I'll skip that part. But I'll remind everyone that members may ask their questions in either French or English. So if you need interpretation to our witnesses, please take a moment now to prepare your earpiece and select the listening channel you need in advance in order to take full advantage of the time allotted for questions and answers. Je vous rappelle de toutes les...
Please ensure all your comments from members and witnesses that they be addressed through the chair. Members, please raise your hand if you wish to speak. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best we can.
Please do not speak over each other, as it will be hard for our translators to translate, and it makes their job very difficult. I will do my best to let you know when you have only 1 minute left, whether it is in your opening remarks or whether it's during the question and answer period. Merci à tous de votre collaboration.
Thank you all for your cooperation.
082 in the motion adopted by the committee on May 6, 2026. The committee is continuing its study of attracting and empowering global talent to strengthen Canada's economy. J'aimerais maintenant souhaiter la bienvenue.
I would now like to welcome our witnesses for today's meeting.
Warmly welcome our two witnesses. I know we have Mr. Pierce from the Canadian Council of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. And then I know Ms. Patterson, I don't seem to have my agenda with me. so I don't have you from, and I want to warmly welcome you, Ms. Patterson from the Information and Communications Technology Council. You each have 5 minutes for opening remarks, after which we will begin our rounds of questions. Mr. Pierce will begin with you for 5 minutes, and your time begins now.
Thank you very much. And good morning, Madam Chair and honourable members. Thank you for the invitation to appear today and provide testimony as part of your study on attracting and empowering global talent to strengthen Canada's economy. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce is the country's largest business association, with an active network of approximately 400 chambers of commerce and boards of trade, representing nearly 200,000 businesses of all sizes, in all sectors, and in most federal ridings across the country. Immigration is a key driver of economic growth in Canada, but the capacity of the country to attract and empower global talent has been disrupted. Our competitiveness as a top destination for global top talent is being eroded, and we're losing out. According to the 2026 TD Bank article, Canada's Silent Brain Drain, Canada has increasingly functioned as a staging ground for the U.S. labor market. It selects skilled immigrants, integrates them into the labor market, and then loses them to larger and more lucrative U.S. ecosystems. Among Canadian-born students, exit rates at the top of the skills distribution are roughly double those at the bottom. For international students, top performers are twice as likely to leave as Canadian top performers. This is not due to poor domestic compensation. Top graduates earn well by Canadian standards. They leave because compensation and upward mobility for their skills is simply higher elsewhere. A few months ago, I was invited to provide testimony as part of your study on Canada's immigration system. At that time, I highlighted that the fact that Canadian businesses are under strain due to real or the risk of tariffs shutting down sectors of our economy aggressive changes to the U.S. tax system, coupled with the requirement that Canadian businesses diversify to other markets. Those risks have not changed. At a time when Canadian businesses are having to compete in ways they haven't before, we cannot afford to continue eroding Canada's capacity to attract and retain global talent. We need an immigration system that is anchored on the needs of our economy and help Canadian businesses compete in a rapidly evolving global economy. Immigration policy is an economic policy, and this is the reason why the Canadian Chamber of Commerce advocates for practical, evidence-based policy solutions that align immigration with Canada's current and future workforce needs. We need to improve system efficiency and integrity and ensure businesses of all sizes can access the talent required to compete and grow. There is no debate that Canada will continue to need immigration and immigrants for the positive effect that they have had to develop our country. Immigrants are vital in many sectors, such as healthcare, where 25% of registered nurses are immigrants, 43% of pharmacists, 37% of doctors, 45% of dentists. The government is advancing nation-building projects where immigrants account for 41% of architects, 40% of civil engineers, 34% of all transportation sector workers, 16% electricians, and 12% of steam fitters and pipe fitters. We need more of that. And in the wake of the release of the National AI Strategy, I would like to remind this group that 2 of the 3 globally known pioneers of AI, nicknamed the godfathers of AI, are immigrants to Canada. Canada's attractiveness is based on our ability to rebuild a system that is favorable to Canadians as well as global talent who decide to move and establish life here. Restoring public confidence in the system involves placing the debate where it should be. Precisely how can our immigration system make Canadians and Canada's economy better off? At the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, we've established the Immigration Council with members from across industries in all regions of the country to advance those questions. Canada requires an immigration strategy that reflects the economic realities, sector-specific workforce needs, and regional demographic pressures of our country.
1 minute.
Our members in rural and remote parts of the country are particularly distressed by current policies and uncertainty, which are having a corrosive effect on their local economies, businesses, and industries. Without workforce, they literally have to close shops, restaurants, and we've heard of concerns of keeping hospitals fully functional. Our colleges and universities and research centers are also facing pressures with the current uncertainty around programs. We support a more coordinated and accountable international student program that protects Canada's global reputation, improves student outcomes, and better aligns them with pathways to permanent residency, where the labour market needs and institutional capacity are met. We believe that restoring public confidence is not simply about reducing and restricting immigration, but more about implementing an efficient immigration system that upholds integrity and aligns better with the country's needs. I look forward to your question. Thank you.
Excellent. Exactly at 5 minutes, Mr. Pierce.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have 5 minutes for Ms. Patterson, please. Mr. Patterson, your 5 minutes starts now.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to appear today. My name is Ann Patterson, and I'm the Chief Research and Communications Officer at ICTC, which is the Information and Communications Technology Council of Canada. ICTC is a national not-for-profit center of expertise focused on strengthening Canada's digital advantage in the global economy through research and through programs. Our talent programs have supported more than 13,000 internationally educated technology professionals to contribute meaningfully to Canada's economy alongside initiatives to build domestic digital talent pipelines. The digital economy employs approximately 2.7 million people, or 13% of Canada's workforce, and accounts for roughly 10% of GDP. ICTC forecasts that employment in Canada's digital economy will grow at 2.7% annually through 2030, more than twice the pace of the broader labour market. This workforce will be critical to Canada's ambitions in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, defence, digital infrastructure, and other strategic sectors. Canada must continue investing in STEM education, work-integrated learning, upskilling, and employer-led training. However, building talent takes time. In fast-moving sectors, delays in accessing critical skills can slow investment, technology adoption, and productivity growth. Canada needs both strong domestic talent pipelines and access to global talent. Immigrants already account for 37% of Canada's digital economy workforce, yet many internationally trained professionals are not working at their full skill level. Canada may attract someone with advanced experience in software, cybersecurity, data, or AI, but that person can still face barriers having their skills recognized, assessed, or fully utilized by employers. This is the underutilization challenge. Canada is not only competing to attract talent, it's competing to ensure that the talent contributes quickly and effectively to economic growth. In the digital economy, skills demand changes rapidly. New technologies create new roles and new competency requirements faster than traditional occupational classifications can adapt. If immigration selection relies too heavily on static or backwards-looking indicators, Canada risks selecting for yesterday's labor market needs rather than tomorrow's opportunities. I would offer 3 recommendations. First, Canada should make greater use of forward-looking labor market intelligence in immigration selection. Education, age, and language ability remain important, but they should be complemented by labor market forecasts and demand-side indicators. Category-based selection is a very positive step. However, in rapidly evolving sectors such as artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, cloud computing, and digital infrastructure, skills demand can change significantly year to year. Immigration selection should make greater use of labor market forecasts, vacancy persistence, employment projections, wage trends, skill requirements, and regional demand. Selection criteria should be reviewed regularly to ensure that they reflect emerging economic opportunities and rapidly evolving skills needs rather than relying too heavily on historical labor market conditions. Second, Canada should modernize how it assesses experience and skills. In many digital occupations, the relevance and recency of experience can be more important than the total number of years worked. For example, a software developer with 3 years of current experience in a very relevant area like AI, cloud architecture, or cybersecurity may be better aligned with labor market needs than a software developer with significantly more experience in other technologies. Canada's immigration system should better recognize demonstrated competencies, certifications, and occupation-specific skills.
1 minute.
Third, Canada should strengthen employer readiness and talent utilization. Immigration policy often focuses on preparing newcomers while paying less attention to helping employers recruit, assess, onboard, and retain international talent. Employers need practical tools and greater confidence in evaluating international experience and skills. Better use of newcomer talent is not only a fairness issue, it is an economic productivity issue. If Canada is serious about AI, cybersecurity, digital sovereignty, and competitiveness, it must be equally serious about talent. Strategic immigration helps Canada move faster, build faster, and compete more effectively. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patterson. Now we will begin with our first round of questions, which is 6 minutes for both the questions and answers. And we begin with Mr. Davies for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the guests, the witnesses, for your testimony today. Conservatives have always supported immigration that strengthens Canada's economy and attracts investment and brings the world's best entrepreneurs and innovators and highly skilled workers to our country. The Startup Visa program was intended to make Canada a destination of choice for job creators and innovators. Yet years of delays and backlogs and poor oversight have instead damaged Canada's reputation, driven investment elsewhere, and undermined confidence among the talented individuals our economy needs. Mr. Pierce, the SUV program was suspended on January 1, and we have over 44,000 approved individuals in startups now sitting in a possible 10-year bureaucratic purgatory. Has the federal government's mismanagement of this program damaged Canada's reputation as a destination for global talent, in your view?
Thank you for your question. I think anytime a program like that gets bogged down in that way, I think it hurts Canada's reputation. And I'll steer clear of assigning blame to how that happened, just that from a business perspective, the time it takes to identify a labor shortage, identify a labor need, to make application to the system, for that to be processed, we've heard upwards of a year, just on the Canadian side, let alone somebody who's trying to apply and come in from overseas. And that creates disruption, that creates a labor shortage that the Canadian economy needs to continue to weather and manage. And so we would certainly be calling for addressing that as critically and urgently as possible.
So actually, on the IRCC website, if you are applying through the current suspended SUV program, it's a 10-year wait, which effectively means you're not going to get here. So, in your view, how much investment do you believe Canada has lost as we go through these program machinations?
Yeah, I don't have a figure for you, and I'll certainly come back with my team if we've got one on kind of quantifying that. But we're facing an economic crisis in Canada. We've got a government that has introduced a number of very aggressive policies to build across the country, and we've said this at time and time again with what workforce is going to accomplish that. We need skilled labor. We need low-skilled labor. We need entrepreneurs. We need the tax system in Canada to be attractive, to draw the best and the brightest to Canada to set up shop here. Matt Holmes, my executive VP at the Chamber last spring, wrote an op-ed that it's time to start recruiting top American talent. It happened during the Vietnam War, of course. It's happened many times before. We've got a lot to offer, but I don't think we're thinking big enough on immigration. I think we should be thinking bigger, and certainly from the business perspective, there is no doubt a loss of economic activity. There's been a loss of opportunity for the Canadian economy as a result of all of this.
So, Ms. Patterson, ICTC frequently highlights the need for highly skilled workers. You mentioned that in your comments. And I am focusing on the SUV program because I have a strong interest in it. But what is your view on this? You're obviously aware of the program. You're aware of the talent that Canada is no longer receiving as a result of up to a decade wait for people to bring their innovative businesses to Canada. What's your perspective, and do you think it has affected your capacity or Canada's capacity to actually bring talented people into Canada?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the Startup Visa program, I think, holds a lot of promise and a lot of potential. It's certainly what Canada needs, but it is, of course, bogged down in some administrative challenges. I think it's important to consider that we are competing for this startup talent with the UK, with Germany, with EU countries. There is a global digital economy that we are in competition for talent with. And so the more efficient we can make our systems, the better we will do at attracting that talent to Canada.
So are you aware of the problems and issues related to the SUV program?
I can't comment on that specifically, no.
You can't, okay. So Mr. Pierce, you made reference to capital that leaves Canada. Capital is not patient. Capital goes to where opportunities exist. What are the key factors that Canada needs to change if we're going to be able to retain the people that are actually going to contribute to our economy?
I would almost suggest you'd need a whole committee meeting to study just that question. Canada's competitiveness is the story. We need tax competitiveness with the United States, with other jurisdictions around the world. We need credential recognition across the country. If you're trained in one trade or credential here in Ontario, you may not be eligible to move to another jurisdiction where you need to for whatever business purpose. And again, coming back to the mandate of this committee, our immigration policies are undermining business success. We have entrepreneurs, we have business leaders who run meat packing facilities in southwestern Ontario that can't find labor. We've got universities that are purging programs and entire divisions as a result of a significantly reduced international student program. And on the overall ability to field labor for business, if there's a Canadian or a permanent resident that's interested, qualified, they should have access to a job opportunity in Canada first and foremost, of course. And if those conditions don't exist, then the Canadian business owner should be able to field, to find the labor that they need. We heard of Red Lake's emergency room being closed recently because they couldn't find staffing. There's labor shortages across the construction trades, across a number of skilled fields that we need to address those so that we can bring that labor force to Canada so our businesses can grow.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Thank you, Mr. Davies. Maintenant, on a 6 minutes pour...
Now 6 minutes for Mr. Joseph. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will ask a question to Mr. Pierce. In your opening remarks, you mentioned numbers regarding the presence of immigrants in some professions and some economic sectors. Could you remind the committee and explain the contribution of immigration to the Canadian labor force? But what does that create in terms of opportunities for Canadians? Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Intentionally added that to my speaking notes because I think it's really important to highlight the critical role that immigration and immigration policies have played in building Canada and will play in growing Canada. But these opportunities should not be at the expense of Canadians or permanent residents. Of course, they should have access to and be able to apply if you're qualified and interested in the role. But for us to be able to grow, I mentioned the statistics, they come from IRGC's website. StatsCan obviously has a number of great data points. They're a major, the immigrant population is a major source of labor in Canada. And I would challenge this committee and the members on it. We have a demographic problem. We have a population problem. And that is not news. That is something that's now been talked about by the Bank of Canada. And if the population number continues to go the way it's been going, we're facing some pretty considerable economic challenges. And you will simply not attract the business owner of the new software AI company that wants to come to Canada if they can't find access to labor, if their taxes are too high, if the cost of operating their business is too high. It just simply won't succeed, and Canada will continue to lose out.
Merci, Monsieur Pierce, et je vais continuer avec vous.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. I'll continue with you, maybe on a different direction. The government recently adjusted its immigration system and its plan for immigration levels to better respond to labor market needs and to support economic growth in the country. In your view, Mr. Pierce, how does the immigration policy contribute to attaining these goals, and what role should it play in the economic development of Canada?
Thank you. So I think we've certainly been encouraged by recent changes that have been made. But I think fundamentally when you look at the immigration system, we need to attract highly skilled labor. But everybody's heard the anecdote of a cab driver in Toronto who's a doctor in their home country. I view that as a failure of our immigration system. That individual should be able to be credentialed in Canada, presumably retrained, of course, but credentialed and to be able to serve Canadians in their capacity as a doctor. And we need labor that will come into the country. If there's a labor shortage in cabs and transportation, then let's create that stream where it's very specific and we're bringing in people aligned with their interests and where they're actually going to stay and operate and succeed. And so we're very encouraged by some of those changes. We think there's more needed, especially around creating dedicated, effective streams that aren't suffering from backlog, that don't suffer from a mirage of policies and forms and application processes that unfortunately the current system is.
Monsieur Pierce, je vais vous poser une dernière question.
Thank you. I have a last question for you. Do you have numbers concerning the numbers of immigrants who occupy specific jobs?
Our Business Data Lab, which is a research division of the Canadian Chamber, I believe does have data to that regard. I can make sure it's provided to you after the fact. Wait. Yeah, merci.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, par votre entremise.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now I'll turn to Ms. Patterson. Could you explain why targeted immigration programs are important to attract talent that the Canadian digital industry needs? And more broadly, how does immigration contribute to creating opportunities for growth and development in the digital industry for Canadians?
For the question.
D'accord.
So the digital economy does work a little bit differently than Canada's general labor market. It is very skills intensive, it's cyclical, it's sensitive to the quality of experience, skills currency, as well as emerging demand. So how we select really matters. We are advocating for a skills-based selection methodology that would allow us to look at what skills are going to be most in demand in the next 2, 5, 10 years to really make sure that
Il
we're
reste une
future-proofing
minute.
our
1
decisions.
minute left.
There's a great opportunity in getting this right for Canada's digital economy in that it is an engine of productivity and innovation for the country. And if we get this right, we will be able to invest in productivity, innovation, and grow quite rapidly to meet these national objectives, while in parallel investing in domestic experience and talent.
Peut-être je vais le temps de poser une dernière question.
Maybe I have time to ask a last question, Madam Chair. Yes, Ms. Patterson, I'll continue with you. We know that Canada aspires to be a global leader in areas like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and high tech. How does the targeted immigration program, notably selection based on categories, how can that support that ambition?
Thank you for the question. So there is a great opportunity to select for a talent that has the specific, unique skill sets that we need. Right now, with occupational selection, there isn't that opportunity to really get down to the granular level where we're selecting for people who have highly relevant, highly recent experience. If we can do that, we can really target who we need to advance Canada's AI strategy.
Merci, Madame Patterson. Merci,
Thank
Monsieur.
you, Ms. Patterson. Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Now over to Mr. Deschênes, 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Hello, everyone. Thank you to the witnesses for joining us. Mr. Pierce, I was listening to your testimony, and I'd like to hear your view, your opinion on the government's policy to significantly reduce temporary immigration thresholds. In the last economic update, the government boasted of reducing the number of temporary foreign workers by about 70% and a little bit more for foreign students, and the number of asylum seekers is down by about 60%. What do you think of that direction at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce?
So I guess first and foremost, a temporary immigrant coming through the system is there because a business has indicated they can't find labor in Canada. And there are bad actors that we hear of all the time, and of course they need to be pursued as aggressively as the government can. But in every case when there is an application, a business is struggling to find labor. And so when you see a broad-based reduction to that level across the country, treating all regions the same, that makes it very hard for businesses to operate. And I think if you take the higher, if you take, for example, temporary applications in Toronto, and that the politics of that we understand, but the businesses there on one side of Toronto can be completely different from another side of Toronto. Well, that's amplified even more if the business is up in Thunder Bay or in rural parts of Western Canada or even Atlantic Canada or Quebec. And we're hearing from business that and community leaders from Thunder Bay right across the country that the reduction in temporary workers for key sectors is hurting business, and should be reevaluated as quickly as possible.
Alors vous, ce que vous dites, c'est que cette politique.
So what you're saying is that this policy from the Liberal government is a bad policy?
Thank you. I won't use terms like bad or good necessarily, but what I'll say is, well, because I think from a practical standpoint, from the Chamber's position, the business community is not about the debate about why something's happening. We're identifying the impact.
Mais ce que vous dites, c'est que cette
But
politique.
what you're saying is that that policy to reduce temporary immigration will have effects. So do you deem it to be a good direction that the Liberal government is heading in for temporary immigration?
I think from the business community's perspective, the reduction in temporary foreign workers and to those programs overall has been a net negative for the Canadian business.
Maintenant, parlons des...
Now, let's talk about the impacts. You mentioned this. What do you think will happen in the coming months in terms of, well, the reduction of temporary foreign workers? Should we expect that businesses will close, that there will be fewer shifts in manufacturing plants? For example, should we expect that?
That's happening. We've heard that is happening in the field right now. We've got, I'll use the meatpacking example from southwestern Ontario. The policy option there is reduce temporary foreign workers because there's a belief that there are workers in Canada that want to do those jobs. That the employers in that region have said that's not the case, and so they've done the process to bring in or to apply for temporary foreign workers. Without them, they can't operate their facility. And so from Canada's perspective, do we continue to have meat packing in Canada or do we import the meat? And those are really that's the policy question. I think that should be really the focus of your study.
C'est en effet une question pertinente.
That's a relevant question. On the scope of the phenomenon, can you help us quantify how many businesses will close, how many plants will have to reduce production with this reduction of temporary foreign workers?
I don't think I can speculate on that, but I'll go back to my business data lab to see if they've got additional information that I can share with you. I think you can't look at these policies, in my opinion, as just on their own in isolation. What's the Canadian economy facing right now? Arguably the biggest challenge to business in 10 years, maybe longer. Coupled with a reduction in temporary foreign workers, so businesses are now struggling to compete and sell their products into the United States or into other markets. They're paying higher taxes than most jurisdictions, and then they can't find employees. And that is a recipe to close a business, in my opinion.
Et donc, je
Il
comprends
reste
votre
une
point.
minute.
Ouais, je
There's
comprends
1 minute left. I understand we can't quantify, but you have testimony from businesses that are closing or sectors. Which sectors do you expect there to be the most economic slowdown following the Liberal policy on reducing temporary foreign workers?
Thank you. I think the sectors we're watching the most, of course, are manufacturing, food processing, but of course, hotels, hotel workers, construction workers, restaurant workers. I'd welcome an opportunity to send you a list from my team that will properly compile out. But just looking at the hotel industry on its own, you're all elected officials. You travel all the time. You stay in hotels all the time. They're struggling to find workers, and that it has proven time and time again that has been a labor shortage, especially in rural parts of Canada. And so the question is, do you want hotels to attend or not? And that's really what we're hearing from industry.
Merci, Monsieur Deschênes.
Thank you, Mr. Deschênes.
Just to extend on that, just because I think it'll be helpful, if there's any data that you have in terms of what are the job shortage, like where are the labor shortages across this country, I actually think that would be very helpful. Okay. With that, colleagues, just because we have shortened panel discussion, I will go for one more round. So 5 minutes for the Conservatives, 5 minutes for the Liberals, and 2.5 minutes for Monsieur Deschênes. And then we'll have to wrap this up, if that's okay with everyone. And then we'll sort of switch to the last panel. Okay, so seeing no dissent, Mr. Ho, you have 5 minutes for your questions and answers.
Madam Chair. So my question is for the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. So, Mr. Pierce, in your opening remarks, you talked about how failed government policies have led to Canada facing a brain drain to other countries. However, just last week, the IRCC is now actively advertising the International Experience Canada program to Canadian citizens aged 18 to 35 as a way to, quote, work and travel abroad in more than 35 countries and territories. At the same time, the same Liberal government tells employers here at home that they need foreign labor to fill jobs in Canada. Does the Chamber see a contradiction in the federal government actively encouraging Canadian youth to go overseas for work experience while Canadian businesses are lobbying for temporary foreign workers instead of training and hiring those same Canadians here at home?
Thank you. I can't speak specifically to that program, but if I can just speak very briefly on youth unemployment, I don't see that necessarily as a contradiction. youth interest in jobs, from what I've heard from our members, is far different from the labor shortages that we're hearing from businesses. The interests of students coming out of university or still in university or college, the job opportunities that they want to pursue are fundamentally different from that meatpacking example I was speaking of earlier, or the construction jobs, or
Do you support Canadian workers, Canadian youth?
Absolutely.
Well, I find it hard to believe that. I mean, you're on the immigration committee. Your chamber has lobbied the federal government over 2,000 times since 2007, 2,000 times. And as early as last month, you've lobbied, or your chamber has lobbied the deputy minister and other senior immigration officials multiple times. So, why should we take your testimony seriously? Is it rather than, because it's starting to sound like a corporate brochure that's being dressed up as public policy advice?
I'm sorry you feel that way. I certainly don't see it that way at all. And I can tell you from the conversations I've had with our network partners from regions across the country, that the labor shortage is a real problem. And I've heard from employers directly that they will advertise for positions in rural parts of Canada and not fill the jobs.
You keep bringing this up, the labor shortage, and that businesses face two options: either bring in more foreign labor or shut down. That seems to be the theme that you're driving in this committee today. Is the choice really this binary?
Well, of course, there's a number of different factors that might weigh on their approach, but I think fundamentally when you talk about the roles that are available to the sectors that need them, to the growth that we're facing in certain sectors, I think it's pretty
priority
obvious.
Be creating work placements for Canadian youth, or apprenticeships, co-ops, entry-level jobs in Canada before employers are given access to this cheap temporary foreign labor?
Well, I think, as I said in one of the questions, a Canadian or permanent resident who is interested in a job, who's qualified for that job, should have access to that job before anybody else. Period.
But you're on the immigration committee today, and
right.
You just lobbied the deputy minister of immigration, not once but multiple times last month. So I just kind of find it hard to believe, Canadians watching home, the words that are coming out of your mouth right now.
But I don't know that a proof point is that we've had a line of communication with the deputy's office at IRGC. That to me is what the business community should be doing, ought to be doing, and frankly, many sectors.
I understand why the business community wants to talk to Industry Canada or the Minister of Industry, or be talking in the Industry Committee. Completely understand, but this is the Immigration Committee, and you just said that you do support Canadian workers and Canadian youth, but yet you're here on the Immigration Committee. How can immigration policy having more open
1
immigration
minute
policy be standing up for Canadian youth? Like, how do you reconcile that?
But I guess I fundamentally disagree with the approach to your question. Immigration policy is economic policy. If we don't have a sustainable go back and look at the population numbers. The demographic challenges facing our country are tremendous.
I'm just going to end with the last question. You're just twisting your tongue here, and so the chamber has
Madam Chair,
criticized
point
the
of
caps
order.
or reductions on
Thank you,
international.
Mr. Fragiskatis.
Stop
Point
my
of
clock,
order.
please.
We can stop the clock. It's no problem. Look, Mr. Ho now says that the witness is wasting our time. I don't
This is a
think
point
so.
of debate.
And
Not a point of-
it's not. It's about decorum. There's a basic respect that needs to be shown to witnesses. A few moments ago, he implied
This is a
that
point of
the
debate.
witness was lying to the committee. I let that go, but I mean, this is just a basic thing of professionalism, a basic respect that needs to be at the table here.
Point of order.
I just
This
remind
is a
my
point of
colleagues.
debate,
Th-
not a
thank
point of
thank
order.
you, Mr. Fragiskatis, and thank you, Ms. Rempel-Gardner. I think decorum is important, and I do think that it's important for us to treat our witnesses with respect. Mr. Ho, you have 30 seconds left.
Madam Chair. So the chamber has criticized caps and reductions on international students and temporary residents in the past, and in your earlier remarks, you mentioned how strains in housing pressure and infrastructure strain and pressure on public services because of uncontrolled levels of immigration. So how is it that you're still at this committee on the same day still advocating for more temporary foreign labor, including low-skilled labor? These are words that came out of your mouth.
Because Canada's a big country. The needs in one part of the country are fundamentally different from other parts of the country. A labor shortage in Thunder Bay is not resolved by a higher proportion of youth wanting to work in Toronto. Those realities can be different across the country, and I think one of our strongest positions at the Chamber is that we want to see provinces more engaged in the immigration system because they better know the regions of their country. It's fun, or their province. I mean, you think of the pressures on Northern Ontario versus Southern Ontario, they're fundamentally different. Imagine the federal government trying to assess the needs of Northern Ontario in isolation from elsewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Thank you, Mr. Ho. Next, we go for 5 minutes to Mr. Zuberi.
Thanks, Madam Chair, the witnesses for being here. And this study is actually about talent, acquiring talent, and ensuring that that credentials are recognized. That we have a number of programs also focused upon, and that's why we're here today to talk about the immigration system. So with Mr. Pierce, you mentioned something earlier on with respect to the numbers of immigrants that were let into the country last year and how that is a drastic difference from years previous. And there are reasons for that. Canadians started to, by and large, not be so comfortable with where things were going. We as a government responded, tightened the belt a bit, and made sure that we restored integrity to the immigration system, which we have done. And now the numbers, the growth for Canada has actually declined for the first time in decades, I believe. So you, in your opening testimony, hinted that this will be a challenge for the future. Can you elaborate further on that?
Thank you, and I'd love to. So, again, bringing back why immigration is an economic issue. Population decline, I think, should be one of the biggest issues being wrestled with in Parliament right now. All the actuarial math for CPP for all of our pension systems and government programs is based on a growing population. If you turn that upside down, the risk to Canada's economy is tremendous. But again, as I was mentioning in the previous line of questioning, it's the regional impact that's different across the country. And so we all understand why the government made the decision that it did on reducing the levels, and that's fine. I guess the message from business is rural and other parts of the country are not the same as some urban parts of the country. Looking again to the social program discussion very quickly, and our social services, every social service dollar started as a private sector dollar. And if you're going to shrink business through policies like this for a sustained period of time, again, with the backdrop of this overall economic pressure crisis, whatever you want to call it, that we're facing in Canada over the past 12 to 16 months, that's a really big risk to our overall economy, and something we're certainly advocating to
certainly
to
and
reverse.
and from my understanding, because I did study mathematics and was looking at becoming an actuary once upon a time, my understanding is that our pension system and also the pension system by and large requires workers to be working and to support the tax base. And right now we're heading if we keep the status quo, we'll be whittling down the number of workers that are able to support seniors and retirement programs into the future. Is that what you see also as being a challenge?
Absolutely. I couldn't be more in agreement with that point. And I think part of the business community, if you're a CFO for a large company, if you're running your small business, your medium-sized business, you're looking at these conditions and saying, do I have a future here in Canada? Right, and that is a fundamental risk that our businesses are facing at a time when there are active policies in the United States to draw business to the U.S. That's a risk.
Certainly, and now just to elaborate a bit further, in terms of top performers, you mentioned that top performers are leaving Canada or considering to leave Canada. Can you elaborate what are those reasons? Why are they doing so beyond what you already mentioned?
1 minute.
Mr. Pierce or Ms. Patterson, either one.
I would be very happy to respond. Thank you. So I think certainly in the digital economy, in the technology sector, we do see a risk of as newcomers leaving Canada as it's a jumping off point very frequently to the U.S., particularly for folks who are in pursuit of higher salaries. So we see that sometimes when newcomers come to Canada, their skills are not strictly aligned to needs, and that ties to our advocacy for greater skills alignment. And so they will go to markets where they can capture the economic opportunities that are aligned to their skills. Earnings is a part of it, and then employer recognition of newcomers as a valuable talent pool also matters. So we do see that technology talent does frequently exit Canada within 7% exits Canada within the first 5 years upon arrival, which is not a huge number, but it is something to consider. So retention, making sure that employers have the ability to retain talent, that our wages are not suppressed, all matters.
Last question for Mr. Pierce.
I'm sorry, Mr. Zuberi. I
thank
think
you.
we're over time, and thank you, Mr. Pierce. So maintenant, on a 2 minutes et demie.
Now, 2.5 minutes for Mr. Deschênes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Pierce, based on your testimony, it seems that, in your view, the reduction in temporary foreign workers is already causing the closing of businesses and reducing our capacity to produce in manufacturing. You also talked about retail. So, in your view, what is the risk for the economy if things continue in this direction?
To put simply, the risk is economic contraction. Business is shrinking, productivity shrinking, reducing. Our competitiveness, again, becoming a challenge, being harder to grow businesses, to add shifts, so they simply won't. But the risk, the biggest risk, again, I keep pleading with this committee to step back and look at the broader context. With the risk we're facing with the United States right now, there's an active campaign by the United States to recruit our companies to the U.S. We need to make it as attractive as possible to do business here, and that includes having access to the labor that can operate the shifts, the mills, and the facilities.
Et sur les réalités régionales, je vais vous entendre.
And in terms of regional realities, I'd like to hear your view. It's something that comes up often in my writing. The situation is not the same in remote regions where the labor pool is smaller. Currently, do you think that the way the government is acting is taking into account regional realities?
Thank you. We were actually encouraged in some ways with the government's policy changes last year, where they started to rely more on provincial governments through nominations and looking to provincial governments to dictate what they need in their regions. We just feel that the country's too complex for somebody in Ottawa to make a decision and parse out immigration across the country. We think provinces need to be at the table. Obviously, industry needs to be working alongside them. And that.
Quelles recommandations vous auriez là sur...
What recommendations would you have on putting things in place to better take into account regional realities?
Labor market data, leveraging labor market data. Where there is a labor shortage, that should immediately trigger our immigration system to pivot and to open either a dedicated stream in that regard or whatever the case may be. And again, leveraging not just the data from Canada, but from the provincial governments as well.
Merci, Monsieur Deschênes, and thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Pearson.
Deschênes.
That concludes actually this panel. I will say to you just on that, Mr. Pierce, if you have any specific recommendations around that, just to elaborate, I think that would be helpful. Other countries do industry councils where they bring the federal, provincial, and municipal levels together. They bring the local and regional data together, and they basically, right across the country, look at what are the skills and labor needs. They focus first on employing their current population And then what they do is then they look at how do we fill in the gaps. Okay, so any recommendations you have very specifically, I think would be very useful for us. Okay,
We'd love
with
to
that,
provide it. Thank you.
yes, with that, I want to say, and that goes to you, Ms. Patterson, as well. We're looking for excellent recommendations here. And so I want to thank both of you for your excellent testimony today, for your patience in answering our questions, and to all my colleagues for their excellent questions. So with that, I'm going to pause for 2 minutes just to bring on board the next panel and to say thank you to both of you guys. Thank you. welcome back to our second panel, which will be done in hybrid. We have one of our witnesses who's joining us online, and we have another one who is here in person. So I'm going to make a few comments just for the benefit of our new witnesses. Kindly wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. On Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you could select the appropriate channel for interpretation, so French or English. And of course, those in the room, you could use the earpiece, and I see you've already done that, which is great. You can ask your questions in either English or French. And I will let you know when you have only 1 minute left. And a reminder that all comments should be addressed to the chair. And please do not speak over each other. It just makes it very difficult for our translators to translate and to hear correctly the conversation. So now I would like to welcome our witnesses for the second panel. From the city of Brampton and online, we have Paul Aldunate, Senior Manager, Economic Development and International Relations. Welcome, Mr. Aldunate. Aldunate, I think that's how you say your name. And then from the United Association of Journeymen and Apprenticeship of the Plumbing and Pipe Fitting Industry, Local 67, we have Nathan Bergstrand, Business Manager. Welcome to you as well. You will each be given 5 minutes for opening remarks, after which we will proceed to rounds of questions. And just to let you know, when the bells go, I'll have to get unanimous consent to be able for us to continue. So, Mr. Aldunate, if we could have you begin for 5 minutes, and your 5 minutes begins now.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, for the opportunity to appear before you today. My name is Paul Aldunate, and I serve as a Senior Manager of Economic Development for the City of Brampton. I am pleased to speak on behalf of our municipality and the employers, workers, and communities we support. Brampton is one of Canada's fastest growing and most diverse cities. More than half of our residents are born outside Canada, and immigration has been fundamental to our economic success. Newcomers have strengthened our labor force, launched businesses, driven innovation, and supported growth in advanced manufacturing, logistics, food processing, healthcare, technology, aerospace, and cybersecurity. As this committee studies how Canada can better attract, retain, and empower global talent, I would like to offer a municipal perspective grounded in the realities we see every day. Beginning with workforce stability and the risk of losing existing talent. Last year, the City of Brampton convened a roundtable with local employers, industry leaders, and provincial partners to discuss immigration and workforce challenges. The message was clear: immigration policy is economic policy. Our one Brampton manufacturer shared a striking statistics. Approximately 15% of their workforce is on expiring work permits. When combined with the 7% natural turnover most businesses experience, they are facing a potential 22% loss of staff within the next 18 months. This is not an isolated case. Multiple employers across Brampton reported similar numbers. They describe this as a return to COVID-era disruption, except this time the instability is avoidable. Losing trained, integrated workers at this scale would reduce efficiency, increase onboarding demands, and create operational uncertainty at a time when businesses are trying to grow. Employers also emphasize that unemployment levels do not solve the problem. In 2026, Ontario's unemployment rate ranged from 7 to 8%, while the Toronto CMA, which includes Brampton and the Region of Peel, was approximately 7.6%. Even with the higher unemployment rate, there are simply not enough available workers to replace the 22% loss. As one employer put it, the math doesn't work. Just as importantly, employers stress the loss of experience and complementary skill sets. Many temporary workers bring advanced international training that pairs effectively with Canadian educated workers. These mixed teams have proven to be more productive than either group alone. Losing their workers means losing that synergy, that mentorship, and that productivity, all of which directly benefit our local economy. The second item is access to specialized global expertise. The second challenge relates to securing short-term access to highly specialized international technicians. Several Brampton manufacturers rely on foreign experts to install, calibrate, maintain, or train staff on advanced equipment. According to those businesses, recent regulatory changes have made it increasingly difficult to obtain approvals for these short-term visits. In some cases, machinery worth millions of dollars will remain idle because the required experience could not enter Canada. A third item is aligning immigration policy with regional economic realities. Brampton's experience also highlights the importance of aligning immigration pathways with regional labor market conditions. Our city has the highest labor surplus of any major municipality in Canada. For decades, residential growth significantly outpaced employment growth. While Brampton is now one of the top job attracting municipalities in the country, the sheer scale of our population and the pace of residential development have made it difficult to keep up. This history underscores a key point. Immigration policy cannot be separated from economic development policy. The talent is not simply the number of workers available. It is ensuring that immigration pathways support investment productivity and long-term economic growth in regions with very different labor market dynamics. From Brampton's perspective, the question is not whether Canada needs talent, it is whether our immigration system is responsive enough to regional realities and whether it enables employers and communities to fully utilize the talent already here. The fourth item is supporting entrepreneurial immigration. Canada must also continue to attract, retain entrepreneurial talent. In Brampton, immigrant entrepreneurs have been essential to our economic growth. The city had invested in entrepreneurial infrastructure, including the Beehive, a soft landing space and innovation space to support founders. Through this work, we've seen how immigrant entrepreneurs create jobs, attract investment, and strengthen local innovation ecosystems. As the federal government considers the future of entrepreneurial immigration, we encourage the development of a modernized successor to the Startup Visa program, one that is more responsive to regional needs and more closely integrated with local economic development networks. So the recommendations are as follows. 1, increase Ontario's allocation under the provincial nominee program and provide greater flexibility to align immigration selection with regional labor market conditions and economic development priorities. 2, establish streamlined pathways for specialized international experts who support manufacturing, technology transfer, equipment installation, and workforce training. And 3, develop a modernized entrepreneurial immigration pathway that leverages local innovation ecosystems, including what we have here in Brampton called Brampton's Beehive, to attract high potential founders and support job creation in communities across Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Aldunat. I'm sorry that's the end of your time. Now we have 5 minutes for Mr. Bergstrand. Your 5 minutes starts now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good day to the members here in attendance. Good day to the members here in attendance. I would like to thank the Chair and the Vice Chair for the invitation here today. My name is Nathan Bergstrand. I'm the Business Manager of United Association Plumbers, Steam Fitters, Welders, Local 67, and I'm absolutely honored to be here with you all today. My lineage of Bergstrands came here from Norway in the early 1900s and were given land in Quebec, aptly named Swedeville near Sherbrooke. My grandfather is most remembered by my family for working on a massive bridge project upon arrival in the early 1900s. My mother's side is proudly from Belfast, Northern Ireland. My aunt and uncle were born there. Mum was born here in Canada, but grew up in Belfast. After the family moved to Canada, my grandfather worked for decades at Stelco Steel in Hamilton. My mother, Rain Bergstrand, was inspirational to me. She is the reason I sit before you today. Part of my childhood was spent watching my mother on Cable 14 after school, as she was a Ward 1 councillor in Dunnville before she moved on to regional councillor for the county of Haldimand, Norfolk. From there, she was elected as mayor of Dunnville before being amalgamated into the county of Haldimand, where she served as the first mayor of the newly formed Haldimand County. Where she served, she later attempted an unsuccessful provincial campaign for the Liberals before moving on to a successful career in the private sector. I tell you this because politics was just as important in our household as hockey, fishing, or sports shooting is in others. The conversation around the dinner table always gravitated towards current political events. My grandfather, Ernie, joined Local 67 in 1948. My dad in 1967, and I joined as a third-generation member in 2001. My father, Randy, a second-generation steam fitter by trade, while his heart can be found in the lake as an avid fisherman. His workmanship and good name in the trade helped carry me into the position of business manager of Local 67, and the reason I sit before you here today. I was elected business manager of Local 67 in 2015 at the age of 34. And I have both my mother and father to thank for that and how I got here today. In my 25 years as a member of UA and 11 years as manager, I have learned much after believing that I had already known it all. The United Association of Plumbers, Pipefitters, Welders, and Apprentices, Local 67, has been around since June 24th, 1899. We celebrated our 125th anniversary just two years ago. We encompass Hamilton, Brantford, and Niagara. We currently have 2,077 total members, which includes 1,100 active members, several hundred active and inactive retirees, and roughly 450 apprentices and counting. We currently deliver apprenticeship training for both pressure welding and steam fitting at our union hall. We produce, through our apprenticeship programs, the best tradesmen and women throughout the country, in my opinion. Much like the other skilled trades, UA members build Canada. We build schools, hospitals, high-rises, arenas, steel mills, paper mills, chemical facilities, nuclear power plants, natural gas cogeneration plants, pipelines, gas distribution networks, oil refineries, and all other aspects of infrastructure that you can imagine. The union trade system is unique. We, as many other union trades, have a system of travel cards. If one local is in need of more workers, it calls upon its fellow union halls throughout the province, and then, if need be, we reach out more broadly throughout the country. We fan out to those union halls in need of employment and bring in skilled members within our system to fill job requirements of long and short duration. This is how we are so effective in completing highly important jobs of short and long duration that quickly arise with high workforce demands that are critical to important infrastructure and industry. Such as responding to...
Mr. Bergstrand, just hold on for 1 second, please. Just the bells are ringing. I just need unanimous approval for us to continue. Shall we continue until 1:45? Does that get enough time? It's the vote is at 1 p.m. I can go till 10:02 if everybody wants to get a round in. No, just 1:45. Okay.
Could we get one round in each? One round?
Okay, there's just two different things right here.
I think so.
Okay,
Maybe
so
we just have
yes,
Could I
Ms. Rempel-Garner.
Could I just say that why don't we just do one round each and then pause after that, provided it doesn't go past 10:50 or 10:02?
Should be about that, yeah.
Does that work?
I mean, you can always shorten the rounds to 4 minutes or something.
Okay, I will do my best to try to keep it to as close to 10:02 as possible, Mr. Zuberi, with as much as one round as I can.
Consent up until just 10:02. I want.
Really? Like,
Yeah.
could we just, like...
The vote's at 1:05.
Like,
1 o'clock or
we're
1:05?
seeking consensus here, and it's like, could we just do one round each? Like, that seems kind of reasonable. Everyone else seems reasonable.
As long as it's 15 minutes before, I don't mind. I give consent up until that point.
Okay, Mr. Zuberi, Ms. Rempel-Garner, what time's the vote, Mr. Bernikoff? 1:05? Okay, so I think we'll be able to do it 15 minutes before. Alrighty, Mr. Bergstrand, you have 1 minute left.
This is how we are so effective in completing highly important jobs of short and long duration that quickly arise with high workforce demands that are critical to important industry. Within our union hall system, we have some of the biggest names when it comes to our contractors. I meet with various contractors when the need arises, but are in constant contact with all contractors performing work in our jurisdiction. In my capacity, I address a litany of industry concerns from contract, jurisdictional, territorial, safety, and workforce issues. Along with my training department, I'm the primary recruitment apparatus at UA Local 67. We have many modes of bringing in new members and apprentices. This is our yearly apprentice intake, which includes 15 welding apprentices, which numbers are restricted due to our capabilities, 20 steam fitting apprentices, and 25 plumbing apprentices. These numbers surge when work exceeds our projections. We also have a portal that allows applicants to apply year-long for membership. We hold a higher intake standard than the industry currently requires, as our contractors pay the highest wage and demand the best and most highly trained workforce in order to be competitive. In closing, I'd like to thank the chair and the vice chair of the committee and the committee members for having me here today in attendance. I look forward to contributing to the conversation any way possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bergstrand. I will give everyone 4 minutes each, and I think that should be enough of a round for us to be able to finish 15 minutes in advance. So we begin with Mr. Menegakis for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for appearing before us. Mr. Bergstrand, are temporary foreign workers currently working in jobs that would otherwise employ Canadians in the plumbing and pipe fitting industry?
Mr. Chair, no, they are not. If I may, the CIMM numbers that start with 9, we can't accept them as members because we can't enroll them in training. So any temporary foreign worker or non-permanent resident or non-Canadian citizen would have a SIN number that starts with 9, and we can't enroll them in any government training. So no, there is no overlap there.
There's no overlap there.
No.
Have you seen requests? A lot of requests coming in from
Absolutely.
temporary foreign workers.
Yep. Yes, I get. There's a portal run by the Canadian Building Trades Union that sends me applications almost daily. It's first come, it's open application, so I get maybe 5 in one day, 2 in another. But and then with our other application portal, yes, I see them on a daily basis.
So generally, how's business today? I mean, are your members finding work? Is there a lot of construction? Is there a lot of requests for plumbing and pipe fitting across the province, across the country?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, sorry. Yes, absolutely, there is. It's Hamilton's actually doing quite well right now for us. There's projects that have been in the pipeline for some time that have now come to fruition. A large hospital project in Niagara, along with a citric acid plant expansion and a battery plant in Port Colborne, amongst other things. There's some SMR work that's coming down the pipeline, which our fabrication facilities are knee deep in right now. So yeah, I'd say we're quite busy, but I know some of the surrounding areas aren't as busy. But the steel industry, which is usually our backbone, there is no work in the steel industry right now.
There isn't.
There is no work. No, the capital projects that they had planned for some time ago that had been spoken about by some members on the floor as if they were completed, have not even been started due to just say the market and some of the market forces, things that are ongoing right now, as we all know.
So your industry has been affected by the tariffs and what's happening in negotiations with folks south of the border here.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say I was intrigued when you said it was your grandfather that worked on a bridge.
My great-grandfather.
Your great-grandfather?
Yep.
I was intrigued because my wife's grandfather worked on that same bridge. I'm sure it was the Jacques Cartier Bridge in Montreal.
Madam Chair, yes. The details are sketchy for my family when it comes to names and dates and stuff like that. But it was spoken about lots over the Thanksgiving dinner table, stuff like that. Yeah, no, it's quite proud of that of my great grandpa doing that.
Back to the folks that are unemployed right now. What are they doing? They're looking for work. They can't
1
find
minute.
work.
We've got high employment actually in Hamilton right now. So the projects that are ongoing are actually bringing in members. I spoke about travel cards. We've actually got travel cards in, so we're actually producing employment for other areas of the province and the country right now. It's not usually the case unless there's a large shutdown, refinery shutdown, something like that, where we need to call in. Like I skipped it in my speech, but a couple hundred members for a short duration of time. But our local members are all gainfully employed right now. But looking 6 months, a year in the ahead, I don't know if it'll be the same level of employment that we have right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Managakis. Next, we have 4 minutes for Ms. Sodi. Ms. Sodi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today, too. Mr. Eldonate, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I think that's how you pronounced it in your opening remarks. I wanted to thank you for being here today, and as someone who has been born and raised in Brampton and now proudly serving as the Member of Parliament for Brampton Centre, I've seen firsthand the impact that immigration has had in our communities, from cultural diversity to multiculturalism, and to the impact that it's had on our economy and its growth. You mentioned this in your opening remarks as well, but I just wanted to reiterate that Brampton is one of the most diverse cities, one of the fastest growing cities in Canada, and many newcomers have arrived to Brampton with credentials that they had earned abroad. From your work with employers on the ground, what difference would a faster, fairer credential recognition process make, both for the workers and for the companies that are trying to hire them?
Thank you for your question, Madam Chair. Through Madam Chair, I think the immigration policies need to be more surgical in nature so that they can identify, work with the businesses in terms of exactly the skill sets that are needed. We have a lot of businesses, like I said in my statement, who, they might have 200 employees, but about 15% of them are they took the time to learn, to teach them how to use the specific machinery and equipment and innovation and to see them having to go because of their working permits expiring is detrimental, not of course to the family, but also to the employer who put in all that money in investment. So I think whatever we do with the immigration policy, it does need to be more surgical, right? And we learn by going to meet many of these businesses. I benefit so much when I go visit these businesses. I go as much as I can. You really start to learn about what exactly makes them tick, how they run, and what they need. And I think it's that kind of on the ground work that anyone who's developing these immigration policies really need to get to know.
The government also recently announced a $97 million foreign credential recognition fund, which will work with the provinces and territories to make that process a little bit more faster and more transparent. How do you think that would impact Brampton's economy?
I think it would have an enormous benefit to Brampton, given, like we were saying, given our huge number of immigrants that come to Brampton and basically our whole city is immigrants, and a lot of them have the talent and the expertise which they have obtained from abroad. Many of them are willing to go to work as soon as possible. But I like in the health industry, for instance, we hear about doctors and people who have medical credentials abroad who are unable to apply their skills here in town is something that we hear about a lot. And I think that type of investment would benefit situations like that.
Since we only have 1 minute left, I will ask a really quick and short question. But your office works directly with investors and employers across different sectors in Brampton. What are you hearing from them about their ability to find skilled workers that they need? And what is one recommendation that you'd like to give to the committee today?
Well, the one recommendation I'd like to give today is to provide more allocation under the Ontario provincial nominee program as well, given that the province, I think, has more visibility into these businesses. And I think immigration has a real regional component to it. We have a lot of these businesses, for example, in the plastics industry, for instance, there are very skilled people who are employed and they can't hire them anywhere else. So they need to keep on the people that they do have. I hear about in the defense industry as well, where we have one Pacific company is really looking to grow in defense, but they're hiring people who are 60 or 70 years old who are retired and bringing them back because they're the only ones who have the ability
thank you,
to
Mr.
carry out the technology
Aldunate, and
that they
thank
have.
you, Ms. Sodi. Prochaine, on a 4 minutes.
Next, 4 minutes for Mr. Deschênes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, Mr. Aldunate. We see that the number of temporary foreign workers admitted to Canada is decreasing significantly, but in Brampton, do you see a lot of temporary foreign workers who can't renew their permits and who are leaving?
Through Madam Chair, I would say that in talking to our companies in the manufacturing business and the plastics and in the defense, we do have, it's not the volume of employees. I mean, there is a lot of immigrants here. It's specialized skills that they've gained in their short time here working and under the tutelage of these companies that are having an issue, right? Because their work permits are expiring and they're having trouble finding the right stream for them to in order for them to stay and work for that company. And those companies are panicking a little bit because that could end up, that's 15 to 20% of their workforce when you're talking about that skilled labor that they need. So it's not the volume, it's not the total amount of employees or the number of immigrants that we need to pull from. It's that surgical, specific type of...
Mr. Aldunate, do your companies tell you in Brampton, well, are there a lot of departures?
I'd say, yeah, you're around the 15, 20% number is what they're telling us, right? I don't want to go beyond that. I mean, that's the numbers that they're giving us. And so that would be the numbers that I would go with.
Ça entraîne dans l'activité économique.
For Brampton's economy, those departures of temporary foreign workers, what does that lead to?
A pause in their work, not bidding on certain projects or being choosy on which projects they bid on. It hasn't resulted in the closing down of any businesses yet, but you definitely see a pause, right? And some of those employees are still there, but time is running out for them.
Ça, c'est intéressant. Donc, il y a des travailleurs étrangers.
That's interesting. There are temporary foreign workers whose permit hasn't been renewed, but they're still in Brampton. They're still there. Is that what you're saying?
They have a few months left on their permits, is what I'm saying. Haven't expired. It's just time's running out.
OK. Monsieur Aldunate, on a eu des discussions
Mr.
dernièrement.
Aldunate, we've had discussions recently about asylum seekers. There are workers there. They have open permits, and often they're able to work and they desire to work. In Brampton, are you supported by the federal government enough to ensure that asylum seekers can be integrated in the labor force?
I think it's going to be hard for me to speak to that specifically, so I'm not going to venture to answer that.
Parce que dans votre rôle, je voyais que vous étiez aussi.
In your role, I see that you are international relations as well, so you don't work on asylum seekers directly. There's 1 minute left.
Not me specifically. I mean, when it comes to international relations, we're dealing with all sorts of delegations who come from different countries who come to Brampton, as well as we go abroad, right, to deal with go to conferences and visit and meet with different site selectors and companies to try and attract them to Brampton. So that's the international relations part of my job.
Je pense qu'il me reste 30 secondes.
Okay, I think I have 30 seconds left. The reduction of temporary foreign workers, do you think it's a good policy?
Overall, I'd say yes, but we need to be more surgical, right? I'm going to go back to that. I think we need to be more surgical in terms of who we let in and the type of skill sets that they have, right?
Merci, Monsieur Aldun.
Thank you, Mr. Aldunate.
Merci, Monsieur Deschênes.
Thank you, Mr. Deschênes.
Witnesses today, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for answering this first round of questions. And thanks to all of my colleagues, as well as our clerk for helping us out today and our analysts. I hope everybody has a wonderful summer, and I look forward to seeing everyone in September. The meeting is now adjourned.